sellers, buyers, and the people at TCGplayer itself, we all want the same thing. We want faster turnover of our inventory. We want less friction in how we're moving that inventory and getting new inventory, and we want a healthier marketplace. And when I, as a long-time higher volume seller, when I step back and look at the platform, from my perspective, almost every meaningful improvement that I can think of comes down to reducing frictions in several aspects of the platform. Friction in how money moves, how orders move, friction between buyers and sellers, and friction in how new sellers learn how to use the system and existing sellers learn how to use new features. So I want to walk through 3 areas where lowering frictions can significantly improve the platform, in my opinion. Right now, one of the biggest sources of friction for sellers is cash flow latency. So it's well known by sellers that the payout system for TCGplayer feels a little old and antiquated, mostly because almost every other platform that's currently out, including TCGplayer's parent company, eBay, has very swift payouts. TCGplayer currently requires proof of delivery for your orders to begin to be processed to be paid out. Now, practically speaking, most orders don't have tracking on them, and most orders don't have verified feedback put in by the customer. So most orders, you're waiting for the entire expected delivery date window to expire, and then if nothing negative happens, TCGplayer assumes that everything was fine and then begins to process your order for payment, which then after that can take several days. So again, practically speaking, this means that from the time that you process and ship an order, it can be 2 or 3 weeks before you see the revenue from it. And I get the original philosophy for that, because TCGplayer is essentially holding the funds to cover potential like refunds or issues with the in order or something like that, customer service issues. And I get that to an extent, but it's 2026 and a whole lot of other marketplaces don't do that because they found it not to be necessary. That the improvements in the sellers of on their platforms, businesses, vastly outweigh the potential customer service payouts they'd have to do from their own thing, and those things still get carried back to the seller also. So how does this help? It doesn't really help the buyer specifically so much. It doesn't specifically help buyers directly, but it does help because it will improve the lives of sellers, improve the ability of sellers to further accelerate their own businesses, which will then cause more product, better run businesses, faster shipments, things like that to come from sellers. Sellers would experience a dramatic improvement. The current cash flow issue is that it can be several weeks before you receive the money from a sale. That were reduced to 3 to 4 days like it is on many other platforms, then sellers would have that money back and then could more quickly purchase new cards to then list on the marketplace, or other tools or things that they could use to benefit their business, which would allow them to more swiftly and ably be able to process more cards, to get more listings, to do better at the things that they do, that then helps the buyers, because the buyers are receiving the benefit of the improved sellers' actions. And then for TCGplayer, this is going to help because the increased benefit to sellers should directly transform into an increased volume of sales, which is what TCGplayer is ultimately after, right? Another benefit to this service for TCGplayer is that they could offer it as a part of their pro seller package, which would presumably increase engagement in the pro seller package, which would increase fee revenue that TCGplayer receives. And it would shore up what could be viewed as a competitive weakness in comparison to other marketplaces, either currently existing or ones that may pop up over the next couple of years. Now, I'm sure you all thought I would talk about this one first, but I wanted to talk about faster payouts because that leads directly into the next one I want to discuss. The main argument for not reducing the time for payouts is that shipping thing that I was telling you about. TCGplayer requiring a full shipping time or tracked or feedback from the customer before they are willing to pay out for an order. I really think a huge reduction friction in the TCGplayer platform would be to implement an integrated shipping option like almost every other platform has. So the way this would work, well, the way this currently works on TCGplayer is that if you sell a card, you're required to ship it. You haven't received any funds yet or anything you can pay out of, so you ship it yourself. Then you wait the 2 or 3 weeks for the card to arrive and to not show proof that it didn't arrive, and then you get your payment back from TCGplayer. The way this works on most other marketplaces is that your funds go into some type of pool, and then within the platform there's an integrated shipping purchasing option. Most of them nowadays have a envelope tracking system like eBay's standard envelope. Every other marketplace has something similar. It's using the USPS regular envelope tracking system, whose name I've forgotten off the top of my head right now. But it's a system that people understand because it's existed on eBay for years, and it mostly works. There's some educating required by sellers sometimes. We'll get to that in just a minute. But that's a system that works, and that way the way that improves everything is that the postage is paid for out of the revenue from the sale directly, since the postage is paid for through the marketplace platform. That's easy enough to do. So I would place an order, or if someone placed an order with me, I would then go into the system, purchase and print out my shipping out of the proceeds, and then ship it. And then now that there's proof of tracked shipping, then the platform is typically good with me going ahead and receiving my payment that's left over from the shipping. How does that improve so much? So like for the buyer, that helps quite a bit, because they now have a whole lot more confidence that their order they place is going to arrive in a timely fashion, because they can watch the tracking along with the seller and TCGplayer. And that's just going to greatly improve the buyer's experience of shopping on the platform, which is better for everybody involved, the buyer, the seller, and TCGplayer as a whole. It's also going to increase accountability of sellers who do things in bad faith. So if they are not shipping something when they should be, they have a huge number of damage or lost shipments because they're not following best packing practices, then that's going to reflect in their tracking, and that can be tracked, no pun intended, and mitigated by either educating or punishing the seller or eventually banning them. So yeah, just overall for the buyer, that's going to improve the shopping experience. They're more confident that their card is going to arrive, more confident that when they purchase a card from a seller, that seller is still on the platform because they have continued to show that they are a decent seller. As a seller, it's going to greatly improve their experience of the platform as well, because improved cash flow is vitally important, as we all know, especially for small businesses that are operating with small amounts of cash. So instead of the shipping having to be purchased out of your existing funds, you can purchase it out of the proceeds after the sale has been completed. If you have a small inventory, but then you suddenly list a whole lot of hot new items, you're on the hook to ship those well before you receive the money, and that may be a point of struggle or friction. Now, it's going to be that way either way with supplies, but supplies are significantly less a cost than the postage. There's no reason to have to go to a third party to buy the postage when every other platform already operates this way. Increasing that speed of that cash flow helps out so much because you're not having to make sure that you keep back a bunch to be able to purchase potential future shipping. You can take that money and instead invest it in more inventory or a better tool, or lots of things like I've already said. It also will allow for the faster payout system to exist so that you'll get that faster that way as well. You're not just getting the improved cash flow from being able to purchase shipping from the sales revenue directly, but also from being able to get the extra sales revenue to you in a few days instead of 3 weeks. It also will create a better accountability of buyers who act in bad faith. A big piece of culture around TCGplayer right now, and has been for years, is that it's easier to scam people on TCGplayer than it is eBay. This is because of the tracking issue. Like, as a buyer, someone can just say they didn't receive something, and maybe that interaction is tracked. Maybe it's not tracked for a super long period of time. I'm sure there's people who have figured out a way to game that system. Now, I'm well aware and preach that that is not almost anybody on the platform. It's a lot fewer people than people think. But there would be even less possibility of it happening and a whole lot more ability to see with actual data that it's not happening. They can't really claim they didn't receive it if it shows it's received. It's a lot easier way to track buyers acting in bad faith, just as it is for sellers acting in bad faith. Because the way this postage system works too, there's insurance against calamity. So if a thing is lost or damaged in the mail, then there exists insurance built into that postage system so that the seller can be reimbursed for the lost package that isn't their fault. Now, if that happens a lot of times, maybe it starts to be clear that it is their fault, and that's something that the platform can do something about. But everybody's going to have a lost package every now and then. So, it's really important to be able to have that accountability, that insurance against those things that happen. Again, it's going to make things feel a lot more secure for the seller as well as the buyer. So again, overall improved selling experience, going to help everybody out. And then again, for TCGplayer, this helps because increased confidence from buyers and sellers leads directly to increased use by buyers and sellers. Increased use means more transactions, which means more fees. Again, this could be offered as a service not just only to pro sellers, but also to maybe TCGplayer subscribers on the buyer side. I don't know that that's necessarily the best way to do that, but that is an idea. You could only offer it to those categories, and so that way you get more people to move into those categories on purpose. That's more cash flow on top of the increased fees from the increased number of transactions. So, and again, this is a much talked about long-term potential weakness on TCGplayer that other marketplaces, I could say, could exploit, but I will say have been exploiting as a competitive edge against TCGplayer. It would shore that up. Again, it's something that TCGplayer needs. And the final thing is I would really like TCGplayer to have a much stronger content creation arm that is highly focused on just talking about how to use TCGplayer, both from the buyer side and the seller side. All kinds of different things TCGplayer can make videos about. It's not weird to make a video about something that you had 10 people like me creating videos about. These would be videos coming directly from TCGplayer. They're going to have authority that way. And TCGplayer just doesn't do a great job, in my opinion, of informing new sellers how to use the platform, what the features do, what a path for progress would be. There's a series of help articles and a few videos posted to their various YouTube channels. The help articles in many ways are out of date sometimes, and they're a lot harder to interact with for a lot of people. And I don't see any reason why TCGplayer couldn't or shouldn't have a video content production department that focuses on tutorials of how to use features, onboarding tips and best practices, interviews with other sellers. They do a little bit of this, a very little bit. It needs to be like 10 times as much as it is. Whenever new features roll out, most of the time, the only way anybody hears about it is through an email and an invitation in the email to go and try out the new feature or new tool or whatever. And, I do that when I catch the email. I don't always catch the email. I get lots of emails. It would be really helpful, I'm certain, to a whole lot of users of their platform if they did any kind of marketing or any type of tutorial or general presentation of the idea and implementation and usefulness of each of these new tools and things to the market at large, so that people like me aren't just getting free views from doing that themselves. I would probably still make videos about these features if TCGplayer were doing it, because I'm in that space, but I might have a little bit different perspective than the in-house production team from TCGplayer. But currently there's almost zero communication from the in-house production team at TCGplayer about how to use a lot of these things. So those are the three things that I would really, really like TCGplayer to implement. I know they've got a roadmap of various things they're looking to add to or improve on the platform. I don't know what that roadmap is, because nobody knows really what it is outside the company for obvious reasons. But it's not. I really hope that these things are near the top of the list on that roadmap, because they're the biggest things that I hear complaints about, the biggest things that I see as structural differences in the TCGplayer marketplace from other marketplaces that really seem like they would be quick unlocks to a lot of increased activity and reduced friction. So if you have any other suggestions of things that TCGplayer might be able to implement, feel free to comment about them. I know there are people at TCGplayer who watch these videos, so they would probably be seeing your comments. And if you have any other thoughts or anything, feel free to comment that as well. Otherwise, like this if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll catch you in the next one.